Hey, what's up, everyone? Chip Walters here. This is a model that I completed recently, and it really is just more of a test to see how you can use 3DCoat to do some hard surface modeling, especially in kind of a sketching way. And what this represents is not particularly a great design or anything, but what it is me looking at using a lot of different techniques to see which kind of techniques work and which ones need a little more help. So as you can see up in this area, I got a little, I wasn't paying good enough attention when I cut this, and I've got some artifacting here. The same thing with this display. I got some artifacting there. This was done really well and crisp. So there's certain things that I was able to figure out as I built this model that worked, and I'm going to actually post the work in progress, but I'm gonna have to speed it up, and when you speed things up, it's really hard to tell. So what I thought I'd do with this particular demo is kind of talk about some of the techniques that were used in creating some of this, and that way you can kind of watch me as I walk through building some of the details that you're seeing, as well as without having to spend the time, trying to filter through a 4-hour long event. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're in 3DCoat, our favorite our application for this kind of thing. I'm going to grow something, a box that I'm going to start with. Let's see, let's do this. We'll turn off perspective, and let's just get this thing sitting right on the ground plane there, and we'll hit the apply button, and we're at 158,000 polygons. So let's go ahead and res that up. Now we're at 633. You never want to get a million. You try not to do a million, at least I try not to. Actually, I say that, but I'm gonna cut this up into smaller chunks. So I'm gonna actually res it one more time at 2 million. And I've got a pretty fast computer, so it can probably handle that. So I map the transform to T, and it's kind of neat because that way you can actually, whatever you want to, you can click on. Like for instance, if we go into, if I look at my quick access button here, right? So I've got clay, primitive, extrude, Voxhide, split, and pose. These are pretty much all the tools I use. I guess there might be maybe one or two more. Oh, cutoff is another one I put in there. I've got that mapped to the X key. But for this particular model, that's probably it. So let me just hit this split key for a second and show you up here. I'm going to use this polyline rectangle to help split stuff. Our polyline selection tool. I've got ignore back faces, so I can go all the way through, which is kind of interesting. And let's just show you. I'll show you, like for instance, if I'm gonna split this off, right? So now I've just created this other volume. You can see that one's cut off, right? So the reason why I was talking earlier about the transform key, if I click here, I've got but I can just click on any one of the objects I want. Let me make this a different color, so I can click to change that. So that's one of the first things that's for me is a good workflow, is just using the transform key to select stuff. So if I hit the T, I'm back with every tool. So if I'm using a tool like, let's say I'm using the cutoff tool, and again the cutoff tool, let's just make it a rectangle so that we can cut stuff off, right? So I hit the T key, I click over here, I go back to the cutoff tool. So you get the idea. So I'm going to go back, and that's one of the interesting workflow tool sets that I use. Another one that's kind of nice is this Voxhide tool. This is really interesting, especially for making kind of vents and things like that. So I'm gonna grab, again, on Voxhide, I've got the same thing. I'm going to just basically start to, carve out what I think, actually, before I do that, let's go back into the cutoff let's just carve out. Oops. By the way, if you hit the E key, this will pop up wherever your mouse is. So I'm going to basically, just carve off some stuff to make this kind of look like it might have been, So this is kind of a, kind of a little bit of a funky shape. So you get the idea. So once we've done that, now this is my basic shape. Now what I want to do is I'm going to break that up into smaller points. So what I use this Hide tool, and the Hide tool is kind of cool because what it can do is I can say, okay, I'm gonna basically, okay, so I've hidden that part, and so it means that if I go into the geometry and I say unhide or I'll invert hidden, you'll see that piece is there, right? So it's hidden, it's not deleted. So let's keep going. So we got that piece off. Let's take another piece. Let's do the back. Okay, and then let's just do something in here. And you get the idea. So, oops, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Okay, so now I've got all those things hidden, and what I can, I guess I need maybe one more chunk gone here. Let's take, let's have a, because we're designing something and we want it to have, let's just take a big chunk out of the middle. Something like this. Just, no, that's not going to work. I want to design I do want to take a chunk out of the middle, but I want to make it a little more dynamic than what we have here. So I'll just go like this. Okay, so that's my hidden stuff. So now what I want to do is I want to basically look at breaking out all of these pieces into separate areas. So what I'll do is I'll go into my geometry and I'll say Objectify Hidden, right? So now I've got them all backed out, and notice that it has a really nice set of parting lines and everything already with it. Now, if you do notice, if I turn this off, some of this part, I broke out, and I need to kind of make it a separate part. So the way I'll do that is I'll go into my the split tool, right? The split tool, which we've already done, and I'm going to just basically use that to split this part off. Let's zoom up on here. Zoom up. Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's do this again. Okay, split tool. And I'm gonna actually, this is going to go, yeah, this is going to go all the way through is what we're going to do with this. So we'll just do it this way. Okay, so now I basically made a split, and there it is, and now I want to clean up the rest of this, so I use my my cutoff tool, and I'm just going to just cut off a little bit of this. By the way, notice this border around here? If you click in here, you can't it won't take. The reason for that is that border is actually an area that you can use to rotate. Sometimes when you're zoomed all the way in on something and it takes a full screen, you know, if you get into this area, you can actually rotate in this area or zoom or use all your controls. It's the same as using the controls up here. So that's kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and take this. Let's cut off. We're going to delete this. Also, let's go back to split. Where's my split tool? Right there. And you know, we're going to basically split each one of these into its own layer. As you notice, it's building these layers as I go. Okay, and they're all child of another layer. So now you can see that if I hit the T key, click here, I get that object, this object, this object, this object. Let's do depth. Yeah. So and you know, sometimes I'll use a different color when I'm working on them. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's turn on this. This is the object that we're using for this is the object we're using for that hole in it. So I'm going to leave that there. I'll probably adjust that later. But so here, yeah. So here we are. You get the idea of what's going on there. So that's one example of using the hide and the split tool to move different things to different layers. So now we have that done. We can click on any layer we want, and we can isolate it by holding the Alt key down and just clicking on that. So oops, I've got two of them here. So let's go ahead and split this. Go back to my split command, and let's. Forgot it. I can't. You can't pan or move the view in any way as you're trying to use a command. So there. So now we have that layer. So if I go back to T, hit this one and this one. So this one, if I want to just isolate that, I'll hold the I'll click on it and hold the Control key down and hit it. And oops. Oh, and then I have to turn. Actually, this one. So these two are this is a parent. So this is really a good time to talk a little bit about this hierarchy here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. And this right here is the new one. It's got nothing in it. If I hold it, and I'm going to name this one, I just call it home, but it's really the top. And then I'll take this and I'll move it all the way to the top, right? So there's home. And then I'll take everyone below it, right? And actually, and I want to pretty much flatten all this out. So I'm going to just move it all like this. And once it's all flattened out, I also want to actually parent it, right? So I want to take this, right click on it and say change parent, make it home. Right click, change parent, make it home. So, okay. Now why am I doing this, you may ask? The reason why I'm doing this, let's see, change parent, home, is because this way I can select the home and turn it all on at once. Let's go ahead and fit all. Oh, there's nothing in it, so it won't fit all. So zoom out. Okay, so and I can adjust now. You know, with the T key, I can adjust everything at one time. So that's really why I do that. So I'm going to set that something like that. Okay, so let's go again with the T key and the transform. Now what I do here, I can control click and I'll basically get whichever one I want, right? So if I want this, I'm going to call this top, and I'm going to actually set. Here's another trick. I'm going to move the gizmo and set this to center mass for this, okay? And now what that means is that let's actually just go back and let's show you why I did that. So that's called the top. Okay, so now if I click with the T key here, or here, that's, if I click here, it's a top, but the gizmo looks here. So I think I may not know. I may be, thinking I'm clicking here on this thing, but I may not know. So if I just basically, with the top selected, I say move the gizmo or set the center mass. Now I've got it set perfectly, and when I click up there, I'll know it, right? So if I click down here, that looks, set to center mass. Click here, center mass, so I get the idea that now as I click, I'm going to get that, I'm going to be able to see exactly what I'm doing here. So center mass and center mass. So yeah, so now it's very easy for me to click through. So that's another fun thing to do. Now I'm going to show you how to do how I do some of the kind of stealth-like kind of angling stuff. So it's actually pretty straightforward and easy. What I'll do is I'll go in here and click on the thing I want, on the part that I want to work with. In this case, I'll click on the top. I'm going to make it white. Okay, so now I've got it white. What I want to do is I want to slice this up. But this is one of the first pieces we started with. And a little bug, you would think that there's nothing else here. But if I go under my geometry and I say unhide all, I got all this other stuff in there, right? So that's not going to work. Excuse me. I don't know why that is. I thought that we had already had this done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this top and I'm going to select this and the split, and use the split key. I'll go up here and I grab that top, and now that's this one down here, the top copy. And I'm going to take that top copy, right click on it and change parent and go to home. And I'm going to take this top and I'm going to delete it. And with this top selected, I'm going to say geometry, unhide all. And now we see there's nothing in there. So when I'm working on that, actually, let's go T. Geometry, unhide all. And you'll see there's nothing there. So that's kind of something you find out the hard way after you've already sliced and diced it. So what I want to do next is I'm going to start to basically do that kind of stealth thing that you've seen us do. So let's go ahead and make it white, and I'm going to turn on symmetry, which on the x-axis, there it is. And we're going to start, basically, chopping at this using the cutoff tool to try and get some kind of some kind of shape. So I'm going to actually turn on more of a galvanized shape so we can kind of see what this looks like. I don't particularly like that. This is all about basically trying to find angles that you can cut off. There we go. That looks kind of nice. And let's go to here and let's cut off something like so. So you start to see how this works. So I can maybe come through here and go straight down. So I'm getting kind of that kind of stealth look to it. Once I get kind of a rough shape knocked out, I might want to actually, let's just do a little. Needs to be a little longer than that, so that means I need to kind of cut closer to the. Let's see. Nope, that's not going to work either. That's better. Okay, so now I'll kind of come in and do some minor detailing. I might come in here and do don't like that. Okay, so you get the idea. Maybe I can get one more over here. Okay, good. So once that's done, I'm going to put kind of a scoop in here. I want this scoop to be like this. It's going to come in here and it'll be a scoop right in this area. So the way I do that is I'll go back again, get the cutoff tool, and I want that scoop to kind of go across this way. So I'm going to basically cut off. Actually, I'm sorry. I want to use the hide tool, the box hide tool, and I'm going to hide. Let's see, if I do that, I cut that off. I want the other way. So I want to kind of hide it from, yeah. Okay, right. So I'm going to hide this and go on the side like so, and get me a scoop. Cut out a scoop, something like this. Perfect. Okay, there's my scoop. Now I go to Geometry and Unhide All, and you see I got that nice scoop right in the middle of that thing. Very, very good. So that's using the unhide commands. That's using the cutoff commands to kind of create some basic rough geometry. So once we've got that done, I'm going to talk a little bit next here about how to how to fine-tune this geometry. Okay, hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So before I go any farther, I do want to talk a little bit about this symmetry that we talked about. This is a great thing, but there are some problems with it, and that is that you may encounter. Like one would be, let's say that you decided that you wanted to make a change to one side, and let's do that right here. Okay, I'm putting that in there. Okay, and I want that change to be reflected on the other side. I said, oh, I forgot. So that's always a challenge, right? How do I mirror this? So one way to do it is you turn symmetry on now, and of course it didn't do anything. But if you hit this little button over here, it'll copy the changes from the most recent side that you edited on. Now that didn't work, so I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to add like one thing. Like for instance, I'll go into smooth, for instance, and I'm going to just smooth it right there. Didn't do anything, of course, because there's no hump on that. But now when I hit this, it should copy those changes, and it did. So sometimes you have to tap it. Tap it once. I'm going to actually back out of all that because I really just didn't want that there. So anyway, that's the first thing about mirror. Another thing is that sometimes you want to instance mirror. You want to design something on one side that was already reflected on the other with a different object. So let's say that let's say that this is our device that we're working on, right? This is our unit, and we're gonna build a stand, right? So let's go in and I'm going to grab the primitives, and I'm going to go, oops, there's my primitive, and I'm going to move it over here. Oops, undo. Actually, yeah, I want to move that over here, create a new layer for it. Let's call that stand, and let's make it a little wider, something like that. Let's put it down on the ground like that. Let's res it up, and hit apply, and then I hit T for transform. Oh, that's a lot of polygons, I can tell you right there. 8 million polygons. So let's right click on it. I actually have mapped this to Command R, and we want to make that about 500, 1,000. There we go. Okay, so there, that's much better. Now, let's say that what we're going to do is I'm going to go to the cutoff tool and cut that off there, and then I'm going to turn it a little bit like this and go here and here. So I'm getting it up. That's no good. And just escape. I want to turn it just a little bit right there. So yeah, that's better. So that gives me a little different kind of a look to it. I'll go here and let's do okay, kicks that down. And then also so okay, so there's our quasi stand. Let's actually yeah, okay, so now I want to actually mirror this and put it over on the other side. And so the way to do that, the best way to do that is use the instance command. So we'll find instancer and we'll say new mirror on the X. So it puts it as a child. And so what's cool about that is if I come in here and on this one, and I decide I'm going to put a detail in here, it's going to show up on the other side also. So it's a nice let's get that. I can't select it. Looks like that's right. Oops. Because I'm working on the wrong one. That's why. Okay. You gotta watch what. It doesn't matter which one of these you work on. Actually, it'll reflect it on both sides, so it's not a big deal. So anyway, I just want to show you that's the mirror. That's kind of some of the mirror stuff going on. So, oh, by the way, notice this is a good example. Is that what happened here is when I built this. If you see that we've got when we unhid everything, let's go ahead and find out where this stuff is. Right, T. So this got unhidden too down here. So I needed to go through each one of those objects and unhid. Like for instance, if I just click on this, let's go here. Let's see, T, and I need. Let's just. Okay, so I click on this and I'll isolate that. And I say geometry, unhide all. Okay, so I've got nothing there. Yeah, but there was another piece in there that was hidden. I'm trying to figure out where it was, but let's see. It's not that, not that, not that, not that. Maybe it was just my imagination. Probably was. Okay, so anyway, so we're getting the idea. So let's move on to some one other thing. So let's look at this. Let's call this the lid, right? I'm gonna call this a lid, and I'm gonna isolate it. And I want a lid to flip up. This is part of the lid thing, so I want the lid to kind of flip up. So what I'll do is I'm going to create a another layer split, and it'll look something like this. Okay, so that's my split layer, and I'm going to hit the Command F key once or twice because, as you can see, when you split it, sometimes, let's hit the T button. It is real interesting. Oops, let's turn that off. Undo that. This is what I want to split this piece. So you'll notice that the split didn't do a very good job. It's not perfect, right? And so let's go back, undo that. If I want to get a split to be better than that, then what I can do is I can actually come in, and instead of using split, I'm going to use this hide, right? So first I'll go geometry, unhide all, make sure there's nothing there. And so let's go ahead and let's do the same thing with the hidden one. Now we've hidden that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say geometry, objectify hidden. And now notice I've got this nice little relief around there. So the objectify hidden one gives you that release, whereas the split doesn't always do that. Okay, so now notice that the resolution of that, if we zoom up on it, it's kind of a really coarse, and maybe I want that. But if I don't want that, let's undo what I did. Let's go back to undo the splitting. What I need to do is let's jack up the resolution here. So I've got it 460. So I may say, if I want a tighter bevel, I may have to go up a little higher, and then go to the Voxhide command, and now we go something like this. Okay, and then go to geometry and say objectify hidden, and now it's a tighter crease. So that's one of the things to know. You might also, yeah, that's good. So that's for that. So that's going to be, actually, I'm going to use that as a segue to the next step, and which is I want to make this kind of a glass door, right? So that's let's see. So let's move this up, and let's hide the lid, and move it down a little bit. And so what I'm going to do here is I am going to create a very kind of a plastic hollow door, and to do that I have to shell the object, right? So what I kind of want to do is before I do that, let me go back and show you why in this particular case I wouldn't use unhide. I wouldn't use the hide command, because I'm going to have to actually trim that door off. So I'm going to go back first and say, instead of Voxhide, I'll go back to what we started off at the beginning, the split command. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to end up, I kind of want to take advantage of the fact that this little door is a little bigger than what it needs to be. Okay, and this lid right here is I'm going to make that change parent and make that the home parent, and I'm going to make that this. Oops, sorry. Here it is right here. Make that there, and then let's isolate it. Alt click. Okay. Okay, so there it is. So the way to do this is I right click on here on this. I'm gonna call this as the glass. I'll rename this glass lid. Okay, so I'm gonna right click on this and I'm gonna say extract shell using voxels, which is okay, and I'm gonna use the number 4 on this, and I go to wireframe and I can start. I really can't tell what I'm looking at, really. So what do? Well, I use this Vox ray, right? So I'm gonna take this Vox ray and I'm gonna start moving it through the object if I can. Actually, let's see if I can get it to. There we are. Okay, so now there it is. Okay, so this is exactly where I want it to be. Let's you can see I don't really have any thickness on this glass lid. So I'm going to edit, undo, and edit, undo, edit, undo, and undo. Oh, okay, so let's go back. So that's where we moved the lid to the top. So let's go back now, and let's see, made the lid, glass lid. Okay, so I'm going to try a higher number then. Instead of extract shell, I'm going to use, or extract shell using voxels, I'm going to use 4. I'll use let's do 7. Okay, and I'll go back to my Vox ray, and I still don't have anything. So let's try. I'm gonna try going the other way. Extract shell. I'm thinking using. Oops, I don't want to use surface. I want to use voxels. It's going to be better. Extract shell voxels. Let's go really small. Let's go to 0.6, 0.7. Okay. There you go. So now we see that we're starting to get a pretty nice wall thickness there for our plastic. So I'm going to undo that. Oops. And I'm going to make sure that, yeah, okay, good. And right click and say extract shell and 0.7. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger, maybe 1. Okay. There we go. Okay. So that's good. So now I can turn off Vox ray, and now we have this nice thick thing, and I'm going to turn back the lid back on now, so you can see there. Turn off wireframe, and actually let's turn the wireframe on so we can see where we have to cut out. So now I'll go to my X, and I'm going to cut this out here, right here. Here. Actually, this is where I'm cutting, is I'm trying to cut out exactly on the inside of that bottom surface, so it's hollow on the underside of it. And let's do that. So here we are. Turning the wireframe on. Oops, darn. Did it the wrong way, didn't we? Let's try it one more time. Sorry. By turning the wireframe on, we use the letter W to do that. Yeah, as you can see, this can be kind of tedious. It's important to have a high enough voxel resolution when you do this, because if you don't, you get some really artifacty kinds of shapes. Okay, there we go. So turn that off. Let's hide our other one, this one, and we can look now. We can see that we have a nice hollow surface. If I want to, I can hit Command F to smooth a little bit, but it did actually put these little grooves on the top, so I'm going to undo that and leave it the way it is. It's pretty nice the way it is. So that's another technique, using shell to create to create something. So okay, so this is our what we have so far. You get the idea. So I'm gonna pause now for a second and be right back. Okay, so now the last thing I want to show is how you add more detail, where we go to the second level of detail now, which is a more finite level. One of the things that you find about topology modelers like 3DCoat and ZBrush is that they kind of they have a tell where everything kind of looks soft, like it's plasticky or it's been vacuum formed or something like that. And the way to get rid of that is to have some really crisp, fine detail on an object. So let's take a look at that. So we're going to go into here, oops, and I'm going to isolate this guy, and we will. By the way, what I just did, just so you know, is that if you sometimes when you rotate, you want the object to rotate about its center. And if you hit this all button, it'll find whatever's selected, find the center of it, and set the camera to rotate about that. If you've got the pen, like if you're like here, and you hit the pen tool, then it can rotate about where that goes. It's kind of a nice thing. So if we hit all, we're back to here. So let's go ahead and talk about how we're going to add some generic detail to this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bolt, right? A little kind of a real simple little bolt. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to zoom in to this area right here with perspective off. Oops. Let's see. There we are. With perspective off. Okay. And I'm going to show the wireframe. I'm going to zoom in even tighter. And I'm going to build an area. So first, let's go ahead and show you what I want to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to go and I'm going to use the Extrude Tool, right? So I'll go hit this Extrude Tool. I'll choose my a circle as my thing, and I want to make sure my border width is at 0. I want, I want the depth to be 100%. I want smoothing off, and I want to invert it. That means it's going to go in and not out. I can also hold the control key down to do the same thing. So I'm gonna hold this button, and I'm gonna make a circle here, a little circle. Okay, like. And now I want to basically turn off my wireframe and show you what that looks like. So you can see that that's not a particularly good resolution. It has that same kind of like a 3DCoat look to it. So let's undo that. Let's go to the wireframe again, and what we'll do now is we'll change. Once we've got this set the way we want, we're going to change this whole thing so that it's a surface. So I'm going to click on here. Oops, I'm sorry. Click on V, and now we've changed all this so it's a surface model. And when it becomes a surface model, we have these tools: Live Clay, Freeze, and Extrude. So Live Clay is the first one we're going to show. And if you look at my my brush, right? So I'm going to go over here and choose this brush, and I'm going to choose this alpha right over here. And this brush again has we have depth is going to be 0, and the radius can be whatever the radius is. If as you know, as I'm rushing, you don't see anything change. That's because the radius is just too high. If I lower the radius, now I'm starting to get an area where I know I can start to add. The smaller I get with the radius, the smaller, the tinier the polygons get, right? So if I want, I can zoom in and I can still see those, right? So here we are. We've got our polys, extremely high density polys. I have to zoom way in. So now I can go into let's go to my extrude command, and again the circle. The depth limit is, leave that alone for now. We want to invert it. We want depth to be 100%, smoothing 0, and now we're good. So now I'm going to hold the button down, and I'm going to draw out a circle, and then while I have the button down, I put my finger on the space bar, and now I can move this around. So I'll let that go, and I just created a hole, right? And so remember the hole we saw before. So let's look at this, and I'm gonna basically hit this button that says pin, right? So oops, click here, it says pin. There we go. Okay, so now, yeah, well, when we look at this model, you see how crisp that is, right? So now I'm not done. I'm gonna, once I've got that done, go back to my W. I'm gonna invert this tool. I'm still in extrude model, and I'm gonna hit the again. I'm gonna do the same thing. Hold the space bar down, and I'm gonna basically now pull out because it's inverted. It's gonna pull out the cap. Now you may look at that and go, okay, that's too crisp. If I want to, I can go and say, okay, give me this one. Okay, and then do this. We'll do the same thing. So I'm going to hit the draw out this, hold the shift key down, make it a little bigger, maybe a little bigger. Remember, we're not inverting, so now we're going outside. Oh, and you can see that didn't quite get there. Need to make sure I get the. Okay, now I hit the control key, move around, and you see that we've got a little bit. Oh, I know why we didn't do that. We didn't have a. See this? Yeah, I need to have this maxed out. Maybe. Oh, that's the. Yeah. Oh, that should give it to me. Let's try that again. Oh, I know why. Because this is using the extrude tool. That won't work. What I need to do is go over here and go into the brush tool, which is this one. Now I just need to use my roller on my, or I can use this and line it up. So what I'm doing is I'm using a different brush. I'm just going to tap the mouse button once, and we're going to see that now we have that nice in there. And then I'm going to go back to my brush, and let's see, let's find a let's try this one here, and we'll do the same thing. I'm going to have to go down. I'm going to say invert it. Okay, and hit it. Not quite there. Okay, so that gives me my detail. Let's hit the W. Let's zoom out, and you can start to see that now we have a pretty darn nice crisp detail that says, hey, this is not done with a typology modeler, right? So that gives you, that's just one example of how we do, we use the live clay to create extra detail. So let's try another one. Okay, so now let's use live clay to add some parting lines to this. And zoom out. Let's look at this and let's say, okay, maybe we want to add a parting line around this little detail right here. So I want to actually have it pooch out and then pooch back in. So we'll do both. So this is a pretty easy thing to do. We go into our live clay and we choose this line drawing tool right here, and we're going to want to zoom up. Let's zoom up on this as much as possible so we can see it. And let's pivot on the pen again. There we go. So let's zoom out just a little bit. Okay, so this is our the surface that we're going to be working with. Now let's try this again. I'm trying to get a good picture here of what it is that there we go, that's better. And now I can zoom all the way in. Okay, so we're going to live clay. We have our live clay tool selected. I want to go to a radius of, let's do 0.5. It's important to use numbers because sometimes you have to come back and fit it, make sure you fit one exactly the same spot. So I'm going to use this numbers for that. Let's find something that we can work with it. That's a good color. I'll use depth. Probably 100% is fine for this because the radius is so small. I'm going to use this particular alpha for this, and I'm going to use the line tool, and we're gonna. I move over here, zoom in just a little tighter. Right, I'm gonna close my symmetry window because. Okay, so I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna trace. This is pointing out. Notice my invert tool is not selected, so I'm pointing out. And I'm going to basically try and bring a model. Sorry, my dog's crying in the background. One second, let me finish this up. So I'm going to bring this. Okay, so that looks like it's like a little rubber gasket or something around the side. Now I want to put a cut on the outside of that. So I'm going to go the radius and say 0.25. Okay, so if I look at what's going on here, so if I look at the density, notice that when I add the live clay, I actually created a lot more dense polygons, just enough density so that when just in the right area to be able to build that space. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to invert this tool. And I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to do it outside this shape. Okay, so here's a good example to start. I'm going to start another one right there so I can get this where I need it to be. Okay. Sometimes you have to start them over, and you just got to be careful how you line them up to do that. But so let's back off, and we'll see that how that has a fairly nice little relief area, and that'll actually render extremely nice in Keyshot. I can tell you that for a fact. That's a way of creating parting lines. If I want to actually continue, I could go. Let's say I'm going to create another parting line somewhere. I can just draw completely across the shape using that little thin device. So you get the idea. Okay, we're back. I want to show you now how I made this kind of a round kind of speaker grill detent on this thing. So oh, notice I didn't have mirror on, by the way, on this, which is fine. I can basically just go into my as I said, I can take this and go into Symmetry and show my axis and hit this button and see if it doesn't give me what I want, and it did. See? Perfectly nice. Good example. So let's go back into this space and let's detail it out a little more. And I'm going to use the freeze command for this. This is kind of a cool command. It does some pretty interesting things. So first I need to create, again, I need to create a very dense area in here. So I'm going to go into my live clay and I'm going to go big and oops. I need to be back in the brush mode with this one, and I want my depth to be 0 and I want my size to be relatively small, and I want to look at this. So I'm going to basically come in here and I just want to just fill this whole area in with my high polygon mesh because we're in surface mode. So we're going to do that. Okay, now that's done. I'm going to go into the freeze command, and in the freeze command I want to use this device, and I'm going to create a very tight frozen area, and see, it's just right in that area. And then I'm going to go back in the freeze command and I'm going to grab this line right here, or yeah, this line, and I'm going to use a radius for maybe 0.4 is good. Let's just use 0.4. So, and I'm going to hit the invert tool, and so I will draw just some patterns like this. Okay. Now I'm going to extrude those in or out. I'm going to put them back in. So what I'll do is, by the way, when I do the freeze, make sure you're smoothing 0. Make sure that the border width here is 0 also. So I need to Control Shift I or Command Shift I on the Mac, to invert that selection. So this is a selection that we're going to work on. I'm going to go into the extrude command and I'm going to use this rectangle, and I want the extrude to be invert, so it goes in. I want the depth to be 100% in this particular case, and that's it. So I just need to go and drag a rectangle around this whole thing, let it do it, then I Command D, just like in Photoshop, Command D, deselect, W to turn that off, and you'll see that we have now a very nice relief detail. And I know it looks a little jagged, but I can tell you that one is that I can do a Command F that usually helps that out, but also that's going to render great in Keyshot. I can tell you without doubt. So that's a great example of how to use freeze. I'm going to show you one other way to do something with freeze real quick. Okay, well that was strange. My whole computer just froze up. I had to restart. And thank God for autosave. I got to say, I'm using Camtasia. I had at least an hour of raw footage that was autosaved, and the file was autosaved, remarkable. Gotta say, great stuff. Okay, so let's go back. Here's our model. Let me go back and look at get the right room in here. Get the right materials. Let's try this one. Let's see. Oh, this is our model right here. Okay, let's do that. There we go. Okay, so as what I was going to tell you was what I want to do is I want to try and hold on one second. Okay, so what I wanted to show was I wanted to show how we do this kind of a detail. This one here. This is that detail right here we just did. I want to show you how you create these kinds of details, and so let's get to it. So I'll put it right here. So again, we're going to want to use our freeze command, and in this particular case, and we're going to want to actually use live clay to do it. So let's go ahead and start with live clay. Oh, let's go with W. Actually, I'm sorry. W. There you are. So let's start, and we'll build our kind of our surface here. And I'm using a radius of 0.5. I probably should make it probably 0.3. Let's do 0.3, and let's zoom in a little more. And I'm going to draw a circle here, kind of, and just fill it in. Now the reason why you say, why wouldn't you just use why wouldn't you draw a circle and just use the circle to do this? And the reason why is because if you look at these tools, you don't get any of these region tools. You have to use a brush for live clay. So maybe they'll add that in the future, but right now you can't. And you can't use a bigger brush because the larger brush makes for a larger. See, it won't do anything. So I have to go down to the smaller 0.4 and and build everything in here. So let's do this. Okay, so we've got that done. We've got this. This looks pretty like a pretty densely packed area. Interesting how you zoom away and you can start to see that it's pretty dense, but it's not perfect, but that's all right. It'll be good enough for us. So I'm going to use this brush over here. I'm going to use the extrude command. I'm sorry. Let's go to. I'm going to use the extrude command, and I'm actually going to turn this on its angle, and I want to use this brush, and the depth is going to be. It's going to be not great. Something like that. Just something like that. Make it bigger, so we can. There. So that's probably maybe a little bit bigger. If I click once. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got the wrong. Here. Okay, make sure I've got radius, fall off, everything looks good. Okay, so let's stick it in here, click once, and now I've got my very nice surface that's just fits perfectly into that deal. So now what I want to do is if you notice that might be even too high of a, let's undo that. Might even be too high of a, let's go right about there. Go back to the wireframe, let's do it again. Okay. That's better. Okay, so we didn't have to go too big on that. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to freeze the area that I want to put my little dots in. So I go to my freeze command, and I'm going to take a circle here, and I'm going to drag that circle out to however big I want it to be. Say that I want those dots to appear on here, and let's do it right out there. Okay. Now remember, I Command Shift I to invert it, and then I go to my stencils over here, and let's go to rounds, and let's grab this one at the very top, and this allows me to scale them, like this way or this way, right? So, and I really, let's close this. Let's go back to it. Yeah, so I'm trying to think where I reset that. Well, don't know where I reset that. Maybe there's a tool palette I'm missing, but we'll just eyeball it for now. This allows me to scale them, so I'm going to scale them down to where I think they're going to be good. This actually centers that little dot. Should probably get that to center. You know, once I get them scaled to the size I want, which is about right there, that little dot centers them. So this builds a stencil. So now I want to go into my extrude command, and once I've got this stencil built, I go to extrude. I want to say invert the tool. I want the extrude to be a rectangular extrude. I want to be depth to be 100%. Smoothing, don't care. I don't really know if that really does much. I haven't really figured that out, to be honest with you. So now I just want to, I'm going to actually, okay, now I just want to draw a rectangle around this whole thing. And Command D deselects my freeze. Close this. Hit W to turn off wireframe. Turn it like this, and you'll see that. Let's go back to our shaders. Let's grab this one right there. You see that we have a very nice, very nice detail there. And lastly, while I've got this going, I'm going to show you just, if you're just adding some little details on stuff, you can go in with, like, say, any of these brushes. Let's take this one for instance. Let's go to Live Clay. Let's make the invert tool. Depth is 100%. Make sure you choose this guy, and you can just, let's the radius for it. So anywhere you click, you're going to get one of these little dot numbers, right? So if I go a little bigger, actually, let's go. I'm sorry, this is what I want. So so that gives me a little indentation. If I want to use that, I could use this one to give me a kind of a little hole. I could also punch this depth up to like 400 if I want, right? So now I'll put a hole, another hole next to it, and it's going to be deeper. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a deeper hole. So in fact, I think yeah. So there's a way to turn on the shadows, and I forget where it is, but anyway. So that's how that works. I think that about covers it. I think that's pretty much, as we look at this this document, I'm looking at it, and I think that pretty much covers all the techniques used in building this particular model. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks. Bye. Okay. One last thing here. I want to actually show you this model that we just built, and kind of show you what it looks like in KeyShot, so you can see, the kind of the fidelity of the rendering. So we'll go in and let's pick a better environment. Let's see. Let's try this one. And let's set the environment background to something around here. Okay, so and then we'll ground reflections. Got some reflections on the ground. Materials, we'll go into our paint. Let's make let's put this one here. Some glossy paint on that. I'm going to make this other one a little bit of a rough finish here, and kind of take a look and see what that looks like. And then this piece is going to be a solid glass, and we'll make it just a little tinted a little bit. And you can start to see that, this model actually, zoom up on it, it's holding its resolution pretty well. The details are hanging pretty tight. So I think that might give you a good, understanding and feeling that this is something that may work for concept sketches. Of course, it can't work for any kind of CADing or anything like that. And I don't really know the topology, how to retopo this stuff is quite the challenge. But anyway, I just thought that might be of interest for some of you to see, kind of what this looks like. If you want to, I'll make this reflective too, so you can kind of see how strong those surfaces are. Works pretty good. Okay, good.